As of last night, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has begun culling hundreds of ostriches at a BC farm.
I promise you, they're getting shot, they're getting wounded, and they're not dying. They're not dying fast. It's not humane.
These are scenes from late Thursday night. What you're watching is supporters of the farm yelling at officers after numerous gunshots rang out overnight on the property. The CFIA says it will carry out a complete depopulation of the flock after avian flu was detected there last winter. For more on where this case could go next, we're joined in studio by Carrie Bowman, bioethicist at the University of Toronto. Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Since last December, the farm has unsuccessfully tried to stop this cull at the federal court, the Federal Court of Appeal, and then finally at the Supreme Court. And their appeal by the Supreme Court was denied. So this brings us to last night and the scenes that we were just sharing with people there. Why has this case become such a lightning rod? We've seen cull orders before.
We've seen a lot of cull orders, especially with bird flu. You know, I would say this is a master class in how not to handle conflict. It's been handled so
By
badly.
which side?
Both generally, but I think our government generally has been incredibly aggressively single-minded on this and not looking for any shared solutions. And you know, it has. We'll certainly talk about the ostriches because that matters a lot. But it's morphed into something incredibly social and political, and very, very destructive. I mean, people see this as government overreach. They see it as institutional mindlessness, you know, just a hunk of machinery that can't stop itself. And we've got a lot of tension right now in this country and on this continent, and it's really feeding into that in a lot of ways. So, you know, did this have to happen? Are these birds unique in their, you know, in their virology and their virus makeup? I'm not qualified to comment on that, but people that are say it's unlikely that they're unique. But here's the thing, bird flu is all around us. This is not early days at all. And, you know, it's in our cities. And Canada's not doing a brilliant job of monitoring. We don't know what's going on in Canadian wildlife. Bird flu could even be passing between humans in an asymptomatic form. We don't have great monitoring on that. So, you know, it looks like we have to do this, and maybe we do, but it's really not part of a broader strategy that's effective.
When we're talking about culls, there's a lot of frustration and fear. You can see it in the people who gathered last night over the methodology that's being used, which is gunshots. Is that unusual?
You know, I'm not an expert on killing, but it seems unbelievably extreme. It really does. I know ostrich from South Africa. They're big, they're powerful, and they're skittish. And, you know, firing at these massive animals, assuming that's what happened, we don't really have all the facts. But I would say is a really extreme and cruel form of euthanasia. I mean, ultimately, there is other ways, and, you know, sedating them or something like that, and then you know, giving them other substances or something. But it does seem quite extreme, and I think we'll be paying for this for a while. I think it's actually, you know, it's creating a rift. You know, the way the truckers' convoy did, it's not as extreme as that, but it's got the same political underpinnings as that.
Explain that further. What are your concerns about?
Well, I mean that it's fundamentally ideological. That in fact this shows that, you know, public health is not a good thing. This shows that science is not well grounded. It feeds into that kind of narrative, and I think allowing this conflict to become so deep really works against national interests in a lot of ways. I really wonder if it could not have been handled in a different way. And, you know, what would that look like? I mean, that's where it gets really tricky. If there was a third solution, could the birds go somewhere else? But they'd really have to be separated from all other species, and that's really hard to do.
You know, this story's had international support, including from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So what do we need?
And Dr. Oz.
And Dr. Oz. So what do we need to do to avoid a similar escalation from what we've seen now?
Well, I mean, I think we need a non-escalation strategy. It would have been good to see some kind of third-party negotiation on some of this. And again, you know, these are not early days, Anne-Marie. And we all know that. This is not early days in bird flu. Bird flu is all around us. So if this was the first cases, it might be a different story. So when it's not part of a cohesive, coherent strategy, it becomes much harder to defend.
Carrie Bowman, good to have you here this morning. Thanks for coming on.
Happy to do so.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
We should mention the Canadian Food Inspection Agency provided us with a statement. We want to read it to you before we end here. It reads in part, the Federal Court of Canada and the Federal Court of Appeal both determined that the CFIA acted reasonably and in a procedurally fair manner in its decision to apply the stamping out policy for the ostrich premises. The CFIA has respected all orders and decisions of the court throughout the legal process and expects the ostrich farm and owners and supporters to do the same now that the Supreme Court of Canada has issued its judgment. We did reach out to Universal Ostrich Farms, but we did not receive a response back from them in time for this interview.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.